It's actually just going to cover a process. It's sort of a process and some exercises I use. I use it personally, but also have used it as an educational tool in developing unique concepts for icon-based logo types. Just to give you a little background about myself, I'm a graphic designer. I've been a graphic designer since graduating college back in the pre-computer days, which dates me a little bit. But so I've been doing this, and I specialize in logo design. I still do pretty much everything. I'm not gotten into mobile apps and that type of thing yet. More traditional. Spent the bulk of my career before going in independent as a consultant and then into teaching. Spent the bulk of my career working for large retail design firms, which was really a great opportunity for me because it was a chance to work with other disciplines, architecture, interior design, graphic design, and the way that these retail firms packaged and promoted themselves was with major retailers was their one-stop shop, and not only the design, but then they would have an architectural arm that could do rollout and take prototype design and roll it out across as many locations that needed to happen. So that was kind of my foot into a lot of identity work, and also it was very helpful to me because I worked with a lot of household, big brand clients like Eddie Bauer and Heltex and and Donato's and on. So I won't repeat any. You won't hear me repeat anything else that's ever been said today. I assumed, being a computer graphics conference, that there would be designers here, and okay. Okay. So it's definitely geared more toward designers. Had I known that there was going to be such a greater marketing emphasis, I might have talked more about the importance of brand identity. But I think there's some other application to this. And by wordplay, I mean this involves exploring words, their meanings, associations, and then taking this through a couple of different exercises. It kind of forces you to come up with, or at least gives the opportunity to come up with unique ideas for image-based icon or logo concepts. It definitely applies to icon design as well, which we were starting to become very much an icon-based culture as the size of interfaces that we work with shrinks, and we hit buttons rather than and nobody reads. And I'm guilty of that myself. I just want to get to the gist of the information. So,
are you able to check view to make it single page?
That's a good question.
Get rid of all the other paraphernalia.
This?
Maybe far left. It's
oh, good. It's okay. Before, when I went to full screen, it was only scrolling. It wouldn't go from slide to slide. So as I kind of mentioned before, I actually kind of came across these things in the past couple of years, and so I'm not sure how long they've been out there, but it's only been a few years since I've run across them, and really implement them first in class. I teach graphic design classes and logo design in getting students. It's a really, really good brainstorming. A couple exercises really good for brainstorming to get students interacted in a group setting, and give them some tools to be able to do this on their own as well. So the two exercises are word mapping and creating a metaphor matrix. Word mapping, I've seen it referred to as mind mapping. It's basically just like connecting thoughts. And when I do this in class, it's just basically me and a whiteboard, and it's very interactive. But and again, it's aimed at, from my perspective and my profession, for generating concepts for icon-based logos, but there's certainly other solutions, and it being a word-based exercise in large, I can see other applications to be used for like headlines and taglines, and sort of used somewhat of a similar process for branding and developing brand stories. I remember working for retail firms. But, it can be used for company names or cat names, nicknames or code words for popular or less than popular coworkers, neighbors, in-laws, political rivals, and I was going to add clients to that list as well after a few of the talks today. And you have to start with something, since we're going to be exploring the meaning and associations of words. And so we want to start with keywords, which it's kind of branding 101. Words that help define the client, their organization, what they're about, what's important to them. So things like their persona, character, values, activity of the business or organization. That's a good place to start. And depending on the size of the client, the client might actually have done marketing research and come to you with some of this stuff that they can inform me. But I've worked with clients, small clients that have actually been in business for a while, and the first thing I'll do is I'll give them a simple kind of standard brand questionnaire. And some of them have come back and it's like, we've never even thought about this stuff before. And they've just sort of succeeded in business, in spite of themselves. But if you have to do your own research, the missioning, positioning statements, company profile history, marketing materials that they have, just information about the business or industry segment they're in general, and then secondary research, white paper articles, things that you find online, trade publications, and so forth. I just went with, for the sake of demonstration, we'll use the name Captains of Industry, which I like, and thought I might developing something around that until I found out there's an ad agency that has the name Captains of Industry. So the first part is, so I did this for both words, captain and industry, is just to start with a keyword and list relative words and then words that are associated with those individual words. And I actually think it's better as a group exercise, because you're going to get, you're just going to get a more volume of thoughts and ideas and words, and everyone has different, vocabulary, so there might be more descriptive words that are better than the words that you might know or think of for a subject. And then you're going to also probably identify words in there that actually need to create require their own separate word map. As you'll see when we get to the next exercise, because you're trying to develop visuals based on these, the more descriptive the words, the better. So you're going to identify some of those. And then the other thing that you'll see before you even get to the second part of the exercise, which kind of forces you to put things together, is that there's going to be some natural associations between words that lead to ideas and images and so forth. One thing that I've, in doing this myself, that I've found helpful is just using online thesaurus to expand, if I can't, I know what the subject is, but I can't quite find the best word for it. And also, another thing is just to put in some keywords into an online stock photo site, because they're all, they all have keywords that are entered with each image, and you'll always come up with stuff that either you knew but you just didn't think of for whatever reason, and you always come up with stuff that's that's kind of a fresh idea that you wouldn't have thought of before. This isn't like a mandatory step, but I think it's helpful, is to then take these words and just break them into lists by category. And you'll see in the next exercise that's kind of a way that they can be set up. Like I said, it's not crucial, but can be helpful. All right, so the second part is to create metaphor matrix. And one of the resources I'm going to recommend is a book by Bill Gardner, who started the site Logo Lounge, which is both an archive and an online forum for designers who specialize in logo design. He came out with a book called Logo Creed and addresses this, and he actually calls it a forced metaphor matrix. Because what you're supposed to do is just put the words into the matrix and then look at where they overlap and kind of force yourself to see if there's an idea there. So it might look like this, and again, if it wouldn't be this neat and tidy if if I were doing it, just be loosely drawn on a piece of paper. There's not really any standard to how many grid lines you need or subjects, but basically you just, create a horizontal, vertical row of subjects, look at where they overlap, and then as ideas come, start to write in ideas of things. And again, I think this is more helpful in a group setting. I know that when I go through this with classes, I'll think, I'll see an association and think, well, everybody's going to get that. And it's like nobody gets it but me. And there's always students that see associations that it's just, and they think, why did I think of that? The other thing is that even in the execution of these, sometimes, you won't be able to think of how to combine these or what a good execution would be, but somebody else, it will be just, right off the top of their head. And so to the left there, you see I have some individual words outside of the words in black there, and that's why it's important, to take some of those words that come out and expand further descriptive words, because when you get to this, it doesn't really help to have something that's very general. You're going to have to choose something that's relative to that word that's specific. And then from there, you take your strongest concepts and then start to develop those further into viable solutions for presentation to the client. There's just so many, there's literally millions of logos out there now. And it's increasingly difficult, even as a good designer who's done this for years and years, to come up with something that's fresh and unique and different and kind of meets all the criteria of a logo. So I found this to be pretty helpful. This is just a sort of a real life example of a result of this process. It's identity I did for a startup bakery. It's out in San Diego, California, called Town Bakery. And just from identifying words and metaphors for town and the skylight, and then things that are obvious visuals for bakery, cake and cake stands and icing and things like that, combining getting the the actual skyline out of the cake and the icing.
That's cool.
And it's kind of nice that it's not hit you over the head obvious, that it's sort of it's something that that you discover.
I needed you to explain it to me.
I was looking at it like it was is that like a digital online cafe? That's where I was going, and then all of a sudden, bam! I saw the skyline in the little windows. Do you see it?
Tripping
And it always helps to and this is true not just for this type of project or whatever, but after you've spent some concentrated time on it, is to step away from it and come back and go through the process again, and there'll be stuff that jumps out that just didn't happen the first time.
Is the one on the left used separately from the one on the right, or are there stages, or?
It's yeah, that's just a standalone icon, but I did do a version where I incorporated it into the logo.
Because they're slightly different.
Yeah. These are 3 really good resources. The one I just mentioned is Logo Creed by Bill Gardner. It's nice because it's written from a designer's perspective and talks about strategy and marketing and all kinds of considerations for design and redesign, and gives individual insight for individual designers who are at the top of the field. That's an easy read. The other thing that I'm just finishing up is he actually asked me to develop that into a course curriculum. So there's going to be a college level course curriculum on logo design based on the content of this book. And then it's also, since not a whole lot of schools offer full semester courses in logo design, there's also some other more project based scenarios, like a 4-week and 8-week logo project based on content of the book, and some supplementary stuff that's goes along with the curriculum. And then the other one, Design Matter Logos, is very good. It's written by a design firm called Capsule, who's a top branding firm. And then Visual Thesaurus is exact. It's just like a dictionary of nothing but icons for different. It's not super extensive. Because probably covers 300 words or something, but 300 topics, but it's just a good reference for ideas. I don't think it's in print, but it's pretty widely available. All those are from Rockport Publishing.
Are those packages, programs you buy, or websites, or
These three,
books, or-
no, those are just books. Those are books, yeah. Just recommendations.
I forget what they look like if they're on the internet.
I was just curious, how many logos do you show a client for concept-wise? Do you just show one
You know,
or
it's,
two, or do you
I mean,
decide
the way that I work, a lot of times, you know, most of my work is for other branding firms.
Okay.
So if it's for them, I'm usually given a mandate of a range of, you know, at least 6, or when I work for Landor, it's usually like 10 or 12. So that's the other part of this, is like, it's not just that you come up with like one good idea for an icon. Let's say when I do logo projects, it's like, it's rare. I mean, I never have to do less than 3. And like I said, sometimes, you know, I have to do 10 concepts that they're going to put in front of a, you know, a national name
The reason I ask is
client.
sometimes we'll have 20 ideas, but if I show the client more than maybe 1 or 2, they always want to follow me more. So
Yeah.
that's why I asked if you only show them 1 or 2, but you make maybe more. Maybe-
Yeah, I mean, as far as, I don't, I mean, not everything that I come up with makes it to the, you know,
Yeah.
to the computer rendering stage. I kind of do my own, you know, weeding out, filtering. It varies. You know, it's such an intense process that it's hard not to develop. It's not hard not to develop multiple concepts and just trying to figure it out. I've learned, and I teach this, and I slipped up recently, but it's like, you never show a client a logo that you would not want them to pick, because they'll go for that one every time.
Yeah.
It's like moth to the flame. And recently had a job where I think I did about half a dozen logos, and the one that was like, it was okay, but it's like, it wasn't nearly as strong. A couple other ones, sure enough, that's the one that they went for. So yeah.
So we are looking at actually finally having a logo created versus the mismatch of clip art that we currently have now. Any suggestions for?
Well, I mean, it kind of plays into what a lot of social media marketing people do. It's like, you know, it's like, it does some good, but I mean, on the other hand, it's like, you know, sometimes the first place to start is with their logo, because a lot of times, you know, especially like with people just going to internet, not having face-to-face, you know, or actual physical contact to the first exposure to the brand, it's the logo that convey, you know, that they make a judgment on and conveys.
Isn't effective in our niche. Like you have 2 seconds to communicate, and you write the logo.
And so sometimes you're working really hard with all these other things, and that they're hanging on to something that's working again. It's, you know, just going to continually work against them.
Got it. So do you think personality matters? Like, as we look for a designer, do you think feeling like they get us as a company and a person? And
Definitely.
do you think the magic happens? Like, do you know when the magic happens? Like, do you feel that magic with a client?
Yeah. I mean, usually, if you can get a sense of like what their taste is and personality is, and the things that they like. Like, you know, one of the questions that I always ask is like, well, you know, what are some brands that you like, or what, you know, when you think of a good brand or a good identity or whatever, who comes to mind? And
We just evaluated logos here. Those are logos that we just evaluated for a new program of ours. Right there. So I just went through this in the last week, this very, very same thing, and 2 of us ended up with the same idea. So we picked it. I don't know if you picked the upper left corner, and that's what people do, but we picked the one in the upper left corner there for
the other thing which I didn't hit on as part of the process is it's good to do like visual research. I usually do it at the beginning just for inspiration, but then also to make sure that, if you're using a metaphor, unless you have done something that's really clever that you've, where you've combined things or whatever that you haven't seen before, chances are it's already out there. You just make sure that you don't do something that's too similar to somebody who's in a similar type of business. I know 2 design firms that I've worked with have developed brand identities, and actually their business has taken off, and then they start to win awards, and then they get a call from an agency with the same name, on an opposite coast, getting cease and desist letters, and they literally have to start from scratch.
You mentioned metaphors as a key technique. What did you call it? Forced metaphors? Or?
Forced metaphor matrix is what sometimes it's referred to.
I mean, I think I've talked about and used metaphor design a lot in our work as well. Metaphors is one trope from the science or discipline of rhetoric.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you have tried, or if you're thinking about in terms of that course, implementing some search for other of the tropes, like synecdoche, part for whole or whole for a part, as a way of just generating more variations or more thinking.
I've got a PDF of the book on my laptop, and I can let you look through it. And I think the Logo Create book, and so I think there's some things in there that address that. Yeah. There's a whole section on different approaches and techniques that hit on some of that. Okay, I'm ready. I'm done. I'm ready for my honorary degree.
Where do you teach?
I teach at a small Christian liberal arts college in Cedarville called Cedarville University.